7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
You'll never have the sacred stone.
And welcome into another edition of the Vegas Squares podcast. Token and I are sitting here in studio watching some golf and watching some sports. Token, what's going on, brother?
Not too much. Another great week of this, what we're calling D-Gen Madness Month.
Yeah, it has been a whole month of degeneracy, starting with Chinese tennis in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
And it will probably end with March Madness Sweet 16, or I guess Elite 8 betting.
Yeah.
On top of that, I've already fired MMA bets just because I had to diversify the D-Gen portfolio.
So. Have you done any NASCAR bets in this month too, or?
Damn it! I got to make a NASCAR bet now, so I'll get there.
All right.
So
I know. Me and you, Tony Johnson, have done NASCAR bets this month. So
yeah, we do have Tony.
I have not done an MMA bet yet. So
we do have Tony Johnson on the phone. He is cascading abroad because he's such a world traveler, because he makes so much money from betting that he can just go and be what do you call it? Not vagabond. That's the poor traveler.
Hobo?
No, the good kind of traveler. Like, I don't know.
A drifter?
No, the drifter's kind of like a hobo.
Yeah.
What's a person who can travel and be well off? I don't know. There's a word there, but I don't really need to find it right now. You're just a swell guy who likes to destination getaways. Let's go with that.
Sure.
All right. We'll go with that. That
long-winded. That was long-winded for vagabond, yeah.
It was. To call someone a vagabond, it took a while. But yeah, no, we're here in rainy and windy San Francisco, the Bay Area here. So yeah, it's kind of unpleasant for the most part, but the next few days don't appear to be so. And then we'll be back sometime during the weekend, back at home in Las Vegas. Hopefully, as the weather starts to come around. So I haven't really looked at that, but it's been pretty subpar here so far in my few days already here.
Fair enough. All right, well, again, welcome into the Vegas Squares podcast. We are getting a call, apparently. That's the one downside about having a phone guy on the phone, is you get people who call in. So we're just going to wait and let that go through while we thank the sponsors. There it goes. Goodbye. 12-Ounce Sports Radio, Vegas Puckline Apparel, ChaiPoker.com, and Eric on the Web Productions. As we watch Zion highlights here on Fox Sports 1, look, I'm not going to go all crazy and go on some UCF rant. I'll save those for the football season. But, let's start with March Madness here a little bit. How does it make you feel knowing, I don't think the three of us were really too high on Duke, but just knowing that this team that everybody is just thinks they're shit and gold right now, they were vulnerable. They didn't come out and look, super terrific in the first game against North Dakota State. They may have, taken some time off, whatever. But, they were in a dogfight with a team from a mid-major conference that really wasn't supposed to be in that game. And without a hook and hold and a push-off, I think that UCF should have won that game.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. Crazy finish to the game, no less. And, everybody that tailed UCF plus the points, easy win. So
yeah, I posted that one on Twitter. And I was hoping to catch that 750 money line. That would have been nice too. But
I had it at 9-1. And
where the hell did you catch it at 9-1? Did you catch it in game or something?
No, it was pregame. Remember we were golfing?
Oh, that's right. You did say it went up to 9-1. Damn, I wish. Well, I wouldn't have won, but I wish I would have caught that 15 as well again. But it's it's hard to really say because no team has really looked dominant. I actually would say the best team so far that's played the best, most complete games has been North Carolina, actually.
Yeah, I would not disagree with that.
And they've already been able to beat Duke twice, both times without Zion. Obviously Zion played that first game, but we all know what happened with Shoegate there. But
yeah.
So realistically, I mean, over the first weekend, we talked a little bit on Sunday, especially about how our personal brackets are. But Tony Johnson, I mean, who to you really looks like, I don't know about a dominant force, but a team more so to beat than necessarily Duke, or it could be Duke in your mind?
Yeah, I'm kind of with you guys with a lot of things that you're saying. I'm a little bit biased, I admit, because I'm not a fan of Duke in general. So I'm coming from that perspective. I will admit that. And I'm with you guys in the sense that I thought UCF was the better team down the stretch, and I feel like there were multiple opportunities where they could have won the game. That ball doesn't roll around, and go in right at the end too. I mean, they just win. So it's very frustrating in that sense. But I do think they're vulnerable in the look that they get a lot of points from two players for the most part. In fact, I think that number is over 50% in the last, at least since the tournament, since the ACC tournament, and then now going forward here. They're getting almost 60% of the points from two players. So if you have any sort of foul trouble, obviously if there's an injury that happens in game, and they lose one or both of these guys for even a short period of time, where are they going to get production from? I think that's part of the issue here, is as you get longer in the tournament, and I'm not an NCAA basketball aficionado, I don't study it, I claim to not know a lot. But I will say this, though, having watched before, at least historically, the teams get better. Teams get better as you go on in the tournament. They're more prepared, usually better coaches, things like that. And they're going to be better prepared to face a team like Duke versus some of these earlier teams. And we already saw an earlier team in UCF. Quite well prepared, I think. They look fantastic. So, I'm not a fan. I don't think it was the favorite here. I do think there's a handful of other teams that I would be picking over Duke right now. I think that North Carolina is certainly a viable option. To me, Gonzaga has looked the best in the first couple of games. But, this is all very arguable. I know they don't play a lot of people during the season, but they were without what many say one of their better players, if not their best player, for the majority of the year. Now he's back. Brandon Clark, I believe. I don't know. It's interesting. So I don't know necessarily. I don't have a good feel for who's going to win or who is the best team right now, but I wouldn't categorize Duke as that team.
Now, Token, a lot of the devil's advocate play, to Tony's response is, well, Duke being the number one overall seed, the favorite, the expectation to win, the greatest player potentially in college basketball history, for a one and done. Everybody who plays Duke, that's their Super Bowl or their national title game. UCF, Virginia Tech, that's going to be their. So what do you say as the devil's advocate in this spot, Token, to say, Duke's basically got a target on their back, so they don't get to play normal basketball like everybody else does?
Yeah, that target on that back does matter for sure, 100%.
That's kind of like the Patriots in the NFL. A lot of teams gear up as if it's their Super Bowl, so, as long as you keep it close or look how much publicity, UCF is getting. And I'll put the hat on of, the big-time P5 ball washer. Look how much publicity this little school effectively in college basketball is getting for losing to Duke by 1 point. Mm-hmm. Come on. They blew their load and gave it everything they got, and they still couldn't beat this team. This team's so good.
It is. It is very good. I don't think it will be the best college basketball team of all time. Not even close, but...
well, that's hard to say. If Zion would have played the entire year, didn't sit out, I think he was out for minimum of 5 games. Could have been more.
I think it was a little more, but yeah.
They didn't take, allegedly, the conference tournament seriously. It's so hard in today's basketball because, you have, the future and one and dones and, is he going to come back or is he risking $100 million? He's already, now you got these guys, Gottlieb and Cowards. Oh, he's already a top 50 player in the NBA. It's like,
oh yeah, I heard
college basketball is just so impure anymore with the fact of this an actual student athlete. we don't know what Zion's mind's focused on. You're right. He could be playing a little timid in the fact that, like, God, one more, shoe burst or, a snap a knee ligament, and you're talking
end of career, potentially.
Potentially, or even at least, the Blake Griffin style where you miss, your first year rookie, alleged rookie year.
Freshman, yeah.
Well, you're redshirting in the NBA,
redshirt rookie, yeah.
Yeah, so it's almost. I think Ben Simmons did that too, if I'm not mistaken. He missed the first year of his eligibility. A lot of guys have done that, but not
Blake Griffin too.
That's what I was saying. Blake Griffin earlier is another one, as well. I think Nerlens Noel was another one. I'm not going to go down the list. There's a bunch of guys, but I almost want to say that this might be a kick in the pants, especially you say that kind of tongue in cheek because it's Mike Krzyzewski. He's been at that school. I don't want to an exact number. I don't know an exact number, but 30+ years at that institution. If he has to be kicked in the pants to get ready to play for a national, a Sweet 16 or a round of 32 game, then what's he doing here at this point? So I'm a little nervous, being against Duke in the field because they might have just gotten the wake-up call, the sleeping giant. You're right. A lot of the production comes from three guys, but basketball might be that sport where if those three guys are clicking, that might be all you need.
Absolutely, yeah. If they're firing on all cylinders, they're definitely going to be a threat in this tournament for sure. But if they kind of struggle out of the gate like they have in the first two games almost, they are vulnerable. So
well, we talked about it. Virginia Tech, I've been saying this since the beginning of the tournament, it's the one team other than UNC that's beaten them. And, yes, Zion didn't play, but also Justin Robinson didn't play, who's their leading scorer, their do-it-all guy.
I think if this Duke team does make the Final Four, they might face Texas Tech in the Final Four matchup. And
well, let's take one step at a time. They got to win two games, I think, versus Duke and versus Virginia Tech and Michigan State, more than likely. Yeah. Could be LSU as well. So let's kind of dive into the Sweet 16 because there is a lot of juicy betting opportunities. I think the first game we have, actually these games are all out of whack in terms of time. Let's just kind of go down the list that I'm seeing here. My odds are provided by Vegas Insider at this point. Tony Johnson, just in the Sweet 16, I know you got the UVA ticket, but is there anything that scares you about Oregon coming in? They were a sleeping giant. I already told you before the tournament I liked everything about them, but Virginia plays good defense and might even play better offense when they need to.
Oh, yeah, sure. Anytime you have a team that's won, 10, 11 plus games in a row, certainly you have some fear, for facing that team. I think the cat's a little bit out of the bag now in the sense that, Oregon having won now both of their games in the tournament, I think they're on everyone's mind. The win streak is relatively known, and I think there's not a lot of surprise anymore coming in. And to be honest with you, I actually think the matchup, knowing a little bit about Virginia's team, the matchup is good because I do look at some of the stats for Oregon just so I'm curious about the game. And Oregon is more of a defensive-minded team as well, too, hence why the total is under 120 in this game. But, I think this is a pretty good matchup. Virginia tends to struggle with teams that are, just really athletic. And can run up and down the floor quite a bit. Catch them on a quick out and stuff like that after getting a rebound. That seems like the best way to beat Virginia. And this is probably a good matchup in half court type of sets. So I'm not terribly, to be honest with you. Obviously, anybody can beat anyone. I understand that, but this is not the game that terribly worries me. It's actually the next one. I think whoever they face, whether it's Tennessee or Purdue in the next game, I think that's the scarier game to me, where you have a bunch of athletic wings, a lot of shooters on Purdue. I think that's the scary game if you're a Virginia backer anywhere, whether you're a fan or whether you just have a ticket. That is the scary one for me. So no, I wouldn't specifically target this game as one. In fact, I'd probably lay the points if I had to, but. Yeah, anytime a team has won that many games in a row, certainly it always gives you a little bit of pause.
Fair enough. All right, looking at Thursday's slate here, Token, what are some games that you've already kind of got circled on your radar?
One for sure in this slate of the Thursday games I do like is I really like Florida State plus the 7.5 against Gonzaga.
Yeah, that seems to be a trendy pick. I mean, you already know my allegiance where it lies, and Florida State crushed Gonzaga last year about this time. I think it was the Elite Eight, or no, it might have been Sweet 16. They just got run over by Florida State. The defense that they play is phenomenal. Terrence Mann and Kamen Gali, if they're on their game, it's hard to even. I might not even take the points in that spot. They're getting plus 275 in a lot of spots. Tony Johnson, you and I talked about this with the rollover. We talked about the betting and rolling over instead of taking the futures, which I read a very good article on Action Network this morning about the value that you're giving away by taking future bets versus just if I believe
individual games,
if I believe Texas Tech's going to win the whole thing, I can roll over 6 bets. And theoretically, if you lose one, you're effectively the same as if you lost your futures bet. But you're getting in
more
the value.
potential value. Yeah.
Yeah, they already talked about. Actually, Texas Tech was specifically mentioned in it. If I had started this in the round of 64, if they were to go, they had hypothetical spreads against who they might play going forward every single round. You could actually get. Texas Tech was 22-1, I believe, when the tournament started. You could have actually, if they won
about
the tournament,
40-1 or something.
No, like 180-1.
Oh wow!
Because they're going to start being, they're already dogs here in the Sweet 16, so you're starting to get plus money. You're more than likely, I believe that is the West. You're probably, if you get Gonzaga, you're going to be a dog again. If you get Florida State, you might even still be a dog.
Yeah. I really like them. That was the second game I was going to mention is Texas Tech. I don't like them on the spread. Take them on the money line.
Oh, see, that's the thing. I
would be a heavy dog against Gonzaga, I think. Gonzaga's a 7.5-point favorite against Florida State, and people regard Florida State, I think, very highly.
Right.
Yeah. You think they'd probably be close to almost a double digit? Probably.
No. I think it'll be 5, 6. I think it'll be right around the Florida State line.
Yeah, somewhere in there. Yeah, exactly.
Florida State 7.5 against Gonzaga.
I understand, but I'm saying, you've got a 1 versus 3 in that spot versus a 1 versus 4. Sometimes you have to look at just, the one thing they always tell us, the odds don't necessarily reflect the game. Sometimes they reflect the nature of the market. Sometimes they believe if they put this number out, they're going to get their equal action, or they're going to get action on a side where they want the money to be. So it doesn't always mean, Florida State or Texas Tech is the better team or the better matchup. Florida State might actually match up better than Texas Tech against Gonzaga. So, Gonzaga could cover a 5 or a 6 against Texas Tech, but have trouble covering a 7.5 or 7 against, a Florida State. So it all depends on matchups, and a lot of pretty good handicappers will tell you trends matter, but take every matchup as its own.
Yeah, and don't overlook any little thing. I mean, every little thing matters in these games.
Yeah, I'm looking at a spot here that haven't put a lot of faith in Tennessee. By the same measure, I like what Purdue can do, but a lot of it's predicated on shooting almost above 50% from 3, which I think at some point's got to cool off. I feel like Tennessee has blowout potential in this game, especially, like I said, if Painter and Purdue can't do anything from the outside. Tennessee plays pretty good defense with their wings, Schofield and Turner, I believe his name is. And then that Grant Williams guy inside can be a menace. I don't know if Purdue has anything that can stop him.
I think this is one you could potentially chase if you like Tennessee, and Purdue happens to kind of with the minor upset, then you could probably chase it with Virginia.
Maybe, but I mean, I believe they're going off, it would be tough. I mean, I know in play, but Oregon and Virginia will be probably going off right about the time Purdue and Tennessee are coming down the stretch if it's a close game. But I think I'm just going to make a bold prediction. I think Tennessee wins this game by double digits. I think they've got.
I would not.
Well, they play in the same place. They'll play right afterwards. They play in the same location.
Oh, that's right. You're right. That's correct. I apologize, but so they'll just delay the game in that spot. So I still think Tennessee's got a blowout in their bag, and this is the spot to do it. I think I don't think Purdue's
close one against Iowa is something to make them a little nervous.
Well, I mean, even the Colgate score was closer than they probably wanted. It was theoretically a 10-point game until that fuckface hit that meaningless 3.
Yeah, we've been on all sides of that, so.
Oh, my God, you should have heard me. My whole house rattled. I was screaming.
Yeah.
But it worked out, because then I went super degen, and it worked out for me. So,
Yeah.
Anywho,
Is this a spot where you would find an adjusted line if you could find one at like Tennessee, -6 or something along those lines?
yeah, I haven't been able to find too much. Maybe Westgate might have something.
Maybe,
but
yeah.
William Hill
Yeah.
and the station casinos haven't had much in the way of.
I know Caesars had a few in the first round and second round.
Mm.
They did? Okay. I
Yeah.
might have to check there. I've never been a huge fan of the that app. So
I understand, yeah.
and I don't like to get too involved with that company for other reasons.
Fair enough.
Necessarily, if I can find an alternate line, I only have money in Westgate and William Hill right now. So, and then Santa Fe. If I find something in Station, Santa Fe is close enough. I can go make a bet. So,
Yeah.
what do you guys think? We talked about Gonzaga, Florida State, Oregon, Virginia, Purdue, Tennessee. The other game that day is Michigan and Texas Tech. We obviously know, your and I feelings, Token, but I don't know how Tony's bracket looks in this game, if he even has this game. But how do you feel?
No, meaningless, yeah. I'm nowhere near it. I think I don't have either team in this spot.
I think out of my bracket, this is the only corner that does exist, right?
All right. Right now, in our Vegas Squares bracket, I have 12 of 16 of my Sweet 16. How many do you got?
I think 8, maybe 9.
Fuck, that's terrible.
Yeah, I know.
Tony?
Oh, man. You have how many, Aaron, did you say?
I have 12 of my 16.
Oh, okay.
have
Yeah, I can
75.
count it. I'm not really sure. Let's see. Hold on. I'll do it right now. 3.
1, 2.
Oh, I do have Texas Tech here. Okay, I have Texas Tech here.
Nice.
All right.
There you go.
I don't have Michigan here, though. I have Nevada. So
Isn't that bad, I guess.
I think if you're 10 or 11 out of 16, I think you're all right. But I've already lost a Final Four team, which I think Tony Johnson's all 4 are still intact.
Yeah.
10. I have 10.
10.
10 here, and I do have all the Final Fours and 7 out of 8 Elite 8 possible. So, yeah, it doesn't, I mean, I'm potentially there. But, yeah, I mean, still blow up. Obviously, potential too. So, yeah, it can go either way, as Token likes to say.
I need a miracle to get out of the
Tony,
basement.
Yeah, Token needs a miracle because his champion's dead. So,
Well, I need a miracle to get out of the basement, even.
you need a miracle just to finish second to last.
Yeah, I know.
So my thoughts theoretically, like I said, I'll be on Texas Tech's money line because I'm riding the wave. I already have a future bet, and now I like that rollover opportunity, so I'm going to be going with that. -2. I don't know. What do we have for a money line in this game? Probably plus 120. I was say 115, 120.
Yeah, it was 115. I think the line was 2 on William Hill.
So that's always the age-old question. Is like, if a rollover bet, do you just take the money line for them to advance, or do you really want to pay a quarter to just have
the money line
2
in
points?
that spot.
Yeah, theoretically in this spot, 2 points may not really make a
2
difference.
and plus 115.
Mm-hmm.
So, Tony Johnson, what are your thoughts on this one?
Well, this is we're back to square one, and me not really knowing anything. This is the side that I haven't really looked at all, just because I know it didn't really matter to me. I've been sort of rooting against Texas Tech just because in our Vegas Squares pool, I know you guys had them going a decent length. That was my only reasoning for that. Was just because of your brackets or whatever. I did not want them to do well. But anytime somebody faces Michigan, I'm kind of an anti-Michigan guy, so it's pretty easy to root against whoever. I root against Michigan and root for whoever they're playing. So I'm kind of at odds here. I'm never pro Michigan, but I know that it would probably help me more in our bracket game if Texas Tech loses. So besides that, I can't root for Michigan. It's just not going to happen. So I guess I'll be on the Texas Tech side here. I know that they have a coach, Chris Beard, who's been there for a few years now, has kind of revitalized the program, and they're very defensive minded. I know he doesn't really recruit big names too. I read a little bit about him. I follow the beat writer for the football and basketball for the Lubbock newspaper. Yeah, which he's an old school dude. He actually votes in the AP for football, and he describes exactly how he votes for each and every team each week, which I love because he'll go 1 through 25, and he'll explain why he has them in exact order. Whether you agree or disagree, who cares? It's nice to at least to see what it is. So, from what I understand, Chris Beard is like incredibly brilliant defensively, and the fact of how he recruits players and how it's not necessarily talent-based, I think is pretty cool. So that's about the only thing I know about Texas Tech. So that's where I'll be there. I have no feel on the game, nothing along where I'll be betting. I have no clue. I'll probably be watching the game just because I think a lot of Thursday games look very interesting, and they have a lot of bearing on our bracket contest, and certainly with my Virginia tickets. So Thursday's kind of the day for me. So I'll watch it. I'll root for Texas Tech, but I know nothing more than that.
Fair point.
All right, so let's move on to, I guess, the second slate of the Sweet 16. We have, I would say I guess you could say the sexier matchups or the more high-profile matchups. Like you said, Texas Tech doesn't do a lot of star power recruiting, and Gonzaga is just kind of one of those. They're kind of almost Patriots-like. They're just, you can just pencil them into this spot every year. Virginia, everybody was, hoping and praying they could go down to a 16 seed again. But this side of the Sweet 16 looks like it's got a little bit more sexier. You got Tom Izzo, you got Krzyzewski, you got Calipari, you got Roy Williams, you got Bruce Pearl, you got Kelvin Sampson, Buzz Williams, and you got a team that doesn't actually have a head coach right now. So you got kind of, storylines, controversies, and that doesn't even get to the players yet. First of all, I'd like to get just a kind of a quick take from both of you guys. I'm sure you guys saw the whole Michigan State Tom Izzo kind of getting in his players' face. Some likened it. His basic quote after the game was, we had an argument about something that a freshman shouldn't be making this mistake this late in the season, and it kind of set him off, and he said there was no intention to ever really be physical with him. Some people believed that Tom Izzo was going to assault the kid. That's just, in my opinion, ludicrous, but your take on this, a lot of people, half the people are tough love, half the people are, this is too much. Where do you kind of fall in that forum?
I guess I'll start.
Oh, go ahead, Tony.
Oh, no, whoever. Okay, sure, yeah. So, actually, funny enough, I'm not a big fan of ESPN in general and Scott Van Pelt, but he had a really nice take on this, which I kind of agree with for the most part, on, his little 2-minute diatribe at the end, where, there's an issue, I think, in society in general with accountability and people sort of being held, to a certain level. And the nice thing about certain coaches and, certain people, I guess, in general, is Tom Izzo is pretty renowned for holding people accountable, for what they, should be doing. And so I'm almost always going to err on the side of that. And, having moments like this where people are have to answer for their actions, I think is a very good thing. Not just for a basketball team, but probably for society in general. Now, all that being said, I do think he went a little bit overboard. Again, I wouldn't chastise him. I wouldn't say anything more than this. I do think he went a little bit overboard with his reaction. I mean, threatening, violence, per se, or the intent of what it looks like, I think there's not really much of a place for that. I think you can get your point across in many other ways than that. So that's the only issue I have with it. But anything that is going on, especially with, Tom Izzo and his way of, teaching players certain things, I'm pretty much all for. So, yeah, I think he kind of went a little bit too far, but not anything that I would even think about or discuss unless it became a big thing in the media, which it did. So, to me, not a big deal.
You knew that was going to happen.
Yeah, I know. After I saw it, I did know it was going to happen. You're right. But, no, I didn't think anything more so than what I just said. He probably went a little too far, but nothing major at all.
Yeah, I tend to agree with that, absolutely, 100%. Izzo's the man. He knows what he's doing. If he goes a little nuts and crazy, of course the media is going to grasp at it and make a headline.
But I don't think it's necessarily Izzo. I think it's just coaches in general. And there are some coaches, not to take away from what you're going to say, I'll let you finish, but There are some coaches that may have earned the right to do what Izzo did, and he's obviously one of them. But there are some coaches that like to yell just to yell.
Exactly.
And do you have to have a track record to get your point across? Maybe so.
It definitely helps.
But you're right. I mean, this is college basketball or college football or college athletics. You know, I've said this for a long time, especially in professional sports. You know, these kids with AAU and showcases and tournament, they're never told they suck, or they're never told, everything they're ever told is you're great, you're great, you're great, you're great, you're great, you're great. You're like, no one can ever challenge you, you're the greatest thing we've ever seen. They're never actually given any tough love on the way. And yes, you're right, on, you know, national television, did Tom Izzo maybe get a little out of control? Probably. But I'll say this as a human being who also manages people, there is a point where, you know, how many times do I have to talk to you before you just get this shit in your fucking head?
Yeah, exactly.
And when you
Once,
don't,
twice, I understand.
for the
maybe,
seventh time,
yeah.
I'm gonna cap off a little bit. So.
Yeah. Yeah, blow a little steam and get my point across, and damn, you better listen. If not, you might go on the bench.
You're going to be on the bench. I don't care if you're a star freshman.
Yeah,
Tom Izzo's the guy who can get the max value out of a lot of his players. The game at that point, I even looked back to see where the game was. If it's a blowout and he's busting his, you know,
chops
busting a cap or whatever, that's a little
but
different. But they're in the midst of a game. They were in the midst of a game at that point. So it's just, you know, I've seen it from many players. I've seen Saban up by 40 yelling at his guys. I've seen Bill Belichick have no problem. Like you said, you know, is it going to be magnified on this stage with our society? Sure.
Yes.
But do I ever believe he was actually going to physically assault a guy? I think that's ludicrous.
I absolutely agree with that statement. I think he did push the line a little, but this is Izzo. He knows what he's doing, and he has to get his point across. So,
but like, say, like the guy like Texas Tech's Beard did that. You know, they're kind of an up and coming team. He starts blasting off at one of his players. You know, could we see a situation where they're calling for his head versus Tom Izzo's? You know, nobody's calling for Tom Izzo. Michigan State wouldn't even listen to those kind of demands.
The supporters of Tom Izzo would just drop out of the Michigan State.
The Beard, you know, there's not a whole contingent of supporters. If he started flying off the handle like this, I mean, everybody, you're either love or hate Bobby Knight. He's one of those kind of guys, you know, and it feels like Izzo, the majority of people really just love him or are kind of like, he's a good dude. He knows what he's doing. He can get the max value out of a team. Nobody really hates Tom Izzo unless you're a Wolverine fan.
Yeah, that's absolutely a fair point.
So, but yeah,
well, you said it before, Aaron. I think it's win. It comes down to, you know, do they win? You know, that's what matters. And a coach that doesn't win, but maybe flies off the handle like this, it's going to be different. But Tom Izzo wins a lot of games. So, I mean, I hate to be that guy, but I mean, that kind of matters a lot. As you said, you know, Chris Beard hasn't established himself fully yet. I mean, clearly he's on obviously the right path, by far. I mean, they've won, 24 plus games last year, but, he has a track record of winning a lot.
But we're just now hearing about their success in the tournament. Yeah, and you're absolutely right. I mean, that's the question. Yeah, track record bears a little bit of leash. So
sure.
So yeah, that's a good way to put it. I'll leave it at that. So let's kind of jump in. You know, here we have Tom Izzo going up against basically an assistant coach because I think his name is Will Wade or Wes Wade is still not on the bench. So this has to scream advantage Spartans, right, Tony?
You would think so. Yeah. I think that's a pretty easy take on it. From what I understand, I watched a little bit of it. Not watched. I read a little bit of a preview of this game. It seems like you could make a decent argument that LSU is a more talented team. I guess that's what a shocker. A more talented team than Michigan State, but yeah, still an underdog. It's still a little surprising, at least at this point in the tournament, that I think that Michigan State seems to not be on the same level talent-wise from a team. But, I don't know. I'm not really sure. I mean, you go into the coaching aspect, preparing for a game, all the things that go into not just, not just calling sets or whatever on the sideline, but everything that you do before the game starts, all that preparation, all the travel, all of that Tom Izzo has done and been in the game for many, many, many years versus a relatively rookie head coach at this level, I think could all factor in. So, not knowing much about either team, I certainly wouldn't be betting on, point spread wise or, side here. The 6 points, I'm sure, is probably a pretty fair line, but, I'm hard pressed to see Michigan State losing a game like this when I think a lot of the intangibles are certainly on their side in this one.
Yeah, and I'll use a phrase from Tokens. Sparty on. Is it Sparty on or Sparty up?
Sparty on.
Sparty on. Missing their co-captain. 15 points a game is out of the lineup. He's shooting. He's 45% from the field. And that's Josh Langford. He's had surgery. They haven't had him this whole tournament, but this is the first real game where they've probably had a little bit of a tougher test. Is that going to play a role? Because I'll just come out and say it. I think LSU plays fantastic basketball, and I think Michigan State plays good basketball, and I usually err on the side of taking fantastic basketball over good basketball, even despite Tom Izzo over
his track record
over
Coach
Coach XYZ.
Absolutely, I like LSU plus the points in this match.
So do I.
And I might even sprinkle a little on the money line for LSU, even without the coach.
How you feeling about it, Mr. Johnson?
Have no opinion. Will not be sprinkling anything on any part this game.
It's DJ Madness month. What's wrong with
DJ Madness? If you have a $2 bet, I'm okay with it.
Well, I've been betting on college basketball, so that's as DGen for me as what it is. The fact that I've made a bunch of bets already, I'm looking at it here.
It's March, dude. It's obligatory.
Yeah.
No, it's not. I have not bet. The last 2 years, I've not made one college basketball bet, and then I've restarted again this year.
It's because you bet us.
Well, yeah, that's probably part of the problem. But yeah, so 10 bets is a lot, and this will not be one of those. There will be bets this upcoming week, but this will not be one of those games. I'll probably, just for fun's sake, and I'm watching some of these games going forward, I'd rather see a Tom Izzo Michigan State team versus something I'm not familiar with LSU, just for the posterity's sake of watching something fun. So I'll be rooting for Michigan State like I usually do anyway, because I like Tom Izzo. So that's about really where I stand. I'm surprised the total is as high as it is. I'm guessing taste probably has a lot to do with that, because I don't know a lot about LSU, but I'm guessing they play with some relative
they like to run it a little bit.
Yeah. There you go. So,
Token, I have 3 words for Tony Johnson and his 10 degenerate bets in March Madness.
Yeah.
Proud of you.
Wow.
Thank you, sir. Yes. Well, we're all very proud over here, too. Yes. So we'll be adding to those 10. But, yeah, there's not this game.
All right. 2 games we'll go on to before we get to the Duke game. These 2 games, to me, just the word that comes to mind is just fun. I feel like these 2 games are going to have a lot of good NBA talent on the floor. Bruce Pearl's already come out and said Auburn's going to run and gun and push the pace, and he actually came out and said, and I quote, "Bet the over if you're taking the game."
What a comment!
I love that. So, and the over is 160.5 in that game. Actually, no, it's 165. Excuse me. It opened up at 164. Okay, so give or take here.
64.5, yeah.
Insider has the consensus right now is 165. So
it opened where? What did you say it opened at?
160.5.
Oh, wow. Okay. Listening to Bruce.
So, like I said, North Carolina, to me, has put together the 2 best complete basketball games I've seen so far. But knowing Roy Williams, he doesn't like to run fast-paced basketball. He likes to slow it down. He's a bigger fan of 2-ball than 3-ball, and Auburn is going to, maybe, if they can shoot the lights out, they might shoot him out of the gym at this point. So Token, 5.5 points, again, 165, 164.5, if you can catch a better line in that spot, especially if you like the over.
I see 5 on Billy Hill, but, hook doesn't matter too much at this point.
Yeah, you're right. The consensus is 5. Opening is 5.5. So it's moved very, very little, if any, in some spots. North Carolina, like I said, looks like the best team, but if Auburn's shooting 55, 60% from 3, that's going to be tough to catch up with.
Yeah. In this matchup, I like North Carolina minus the points.
Fair enough.
Yeah, they've just been too dominant as of late, and Tar Heels should probably blow Auburn out of the water by.
What do we got for a money line on this one?
Minus 210
I might pay the juice to that because I can see North Carolina. North Carolina's a better team, no doubt about it. But I'm too afraid to take the 5 in case Auburn does shoot well.
It makes it like a 3-point game.
Yeah, and keeps it close. But it's either going to be a 1 or 2 point North Carolina victory or a 22-point North Carolina victory because Auburn shoots 27% from 3.
Yeah.
And I just don't – I mean, do I want to lay another $1? I think I might, but I have another couple of days to decide that.
Yeah, or you could throw it in a teaser or something.
Mr. Politician Man, how are you feeling on this game?
I just looked at the record for North Carolina and against the spread and totals. So there have been, I just did this quickly, here, there's been 11 games where the total was 160 or higher for North Carolina this year. And that over has gotten there only 3 times, so 3 and 8, where it has been, and that's both non-conference, conference, that's the entire year.
Okay.
So yeah, that's kind of interesting in its own right. There have been a few times where North Carolina has scored like 100 points themselves, and there have been some others where they've scored like 60. So it can really, it seems like it can very much vary, I'm sure, depending on the matchup and things like that.
Go either way.
So that's kind of fun. This is one of those, I'm not a fan of Bruce Pearl at all. He's pretty much, a scammer and he's left every single team, high and dry, with, issues and, recruiting violations and things like that, wherever he's gone. So, I'm not a fan of him in general. While his teams are fun and they are entertaining to watch, I will be rooting for North Carolina here just based on the Love-Hate situation there. I don't know. I don't have much of a feel for this game at all. The fact that the total has already been discussed by a coach is sort of interesting. I don't know how much that's probably influenced the market at all.
Well,
I don't know how to really. I don't know how to read that. Yeah, well, whether those bets were coming in anyway because the total was, theoretically too low for people, or whether that actually mattered what he said, who really knows. I guess I'll probably, I'm like you, Aaron, I'll probably watch it a little bit as the days progress here, and then maybe by Friday we'll find something. If this thing keeps moving up into the mid to high 160s, I think that's probably too high just in general. I mean, you guys got to shoot the lights out at some point to get that many points. I mean, pace is good, but
Auburn
you have to go out
gotta have a high percentage shooting from 3 too, and
well, not only that, I think North Carolina's the better team, and like I said, Auburn has to play a Super Bowl type game here to be competitive and/or win the game. So, with that being said, I can see North Carolina kind of playing stout defense, keeping the total under because the matchup they have next, which we'll move into, Houston and Kentucky. I think both of those teams present a far bigger challenge to North Carolina than Auburn does.
Gotcha. Okay.
So we got the Cats and the Cougs. 3 is the spread I see right now. 134.5 is the total. I have Kentucky as my champion, and I believe Tony Johnson does too.
I do. Yes.
So, but that doesn't matter on the spread here. That's a 3-point spread. Houston has played well. But I think they've played teams that aren't necessarily
great.
I don't know if great. I mean, because obviously there's not a lot of great teams in college basketball. But I just think I think Ohio State was an incredibly underachieving team this year, and they got the benefit of the doubt, being that their name is Ohio State, that they got into this tournament. That's my opinion on it, just based on resume. I think that the name got them into the tournament.
Names do matter when it goes to March Madness.
And they happened to win a game, and they got manhandled by a team that's just better than them, even if they are from a quote unquote weaker conference.
Of 100 times in that game, Houston probably wins 75%, maybe a little more.
I'd say they win 9 out of 10, every 10 matchups there in that spot. That being said, though, Kentucky is a strong team. P.J. Washington is expected to play. So 3 points feels, it feels like they're the better team. This is a neutral site game for them, so it's not like we're getting the extra basket advantage in that spot. So as Kentucky being my championship representative, I'll probably give me a money line on that one. What do we have?
Minus 155.
I'd probably just lay the money line on that spot because I think the Cougars got a good team. I'd just rather just give up the points in that spot, or take back the points, I guess you could say.
I feel confident in laying the points with Kentucky in this one.
Fair enough.
I'm the token. I'm laying the 2.5. I'm riding the Kentucky train. This is my pick. Without, I'll admit, a lot of knowledge behind it, but I don't care. It's my national champion pick.
I do not care.
I'm going to continue to ride it. Yes, I do not care. I will lay the point.
Fire them all.
Fire them all.
So, all right, and then we get to the big kahuna before we jump into some golf here. And Virginia Tech and Duke, I've been saying it since the beginning of the tournament. This is where the buck stops. And I feel a little less confident because, like I said, I feel like Duke may have gotten that kick in the ass or that wake-up call that they need. 7's still a lot of points, especially the team that I know that knows their operating or their method of operation. They know how they play. They can, again, can they handle Zion? The guess is hard. I mean, he scored, I think, 25-plus points in both games. I'm still rocking with my pick, Virginia Tech. I've already bet them to win the region, and I got 7-1 on it, or 650-1. I can't remember. 750-1, or
750
plus 750 is what I got. Yeah. So I'm like, this is another one of those teams. I'm probably going to roll the money line, and hopefully that I can continue on Sunday, rolling the money line. So I'm going to take. I've actually already bet this game. I got plus 8.5, and I got 245 on the money line, I believe was the number. I have to check again, but I can't check my phone while we got Tony on the phone.
280 right now.
So I might have gotten 275 on this one or something like that. But
yeah, I could see that money line going up if you want to fire Virginia Tech probably right before a game is probably.
But that's what scares me is I feel like now I'm on the square side because everybody saw what UCF and Duke battled to, and Virginia Tech played, I believe, Liberty and didn't really have a problem. Or did they play Buffalo? I think they played Liberty. They played Liberty.
Yeah.
So.
It was close. It was close until the end. It was a 3 or 4 point game.
It was a 5-point game with 10 minutes left, yeah.
Yeah. I was watching
when I
over
fired
that.
the under. You missed the golf outing last Sunday, Tony.
Yeah, it was a fun time.
I know. I heard about that. Yes, I did. Yes. And
some DJ
now my
golf
6
course.
are in. I know, now they're in storage, and they're towards the back, I think. I didn't plan it out very well when I was moving my stuff, so I gotta figure out how to get them out of there without everything toppling over and killing me in the storage unit. So,
yeah, you don't want that to happen.
That's not our problem, sir. You just need to get out there.
Yeah.
True. But, I mean, if I'm lying dead in the storage unit, I can't get out there. So, I mean, you're gonna miss one of your foursome or threesome. So, I mean, it does sort of become it.
Yeah.
How did Tony Johnson die? Oh, he was trying to get his clubs out of the storage.
When everything falls over him, he yells rat turds.
Okay. Remember that when everything falls on you. Token said I need to say rat turds.
Well, in Caddyshack, when the guy holds it up and gets struck by lightning, that's what he yells is rat turds.
No, I didn't even think about that. Yeah, you're right. All right, fair enough. All right, so we got 7 points right now, VI consensus. You already know where I'm at.
Wow. Interesting game here. It looks like, yeah, you're right. The money line hasn't moved very much, but the total, the point spread has moved down from, about 8 when it opened to about 7 in both places now. So that's kind of interesting in that sense. But, yeah, I mean, I'm with you. I don't know if it's square or not. I don't really care either. I feel like this is probably too many points for a team that's already beaten Duke this year. And I realize that Williamson was not playing in that game. I understand. But still, it's nice to have at least a positive track record, moving into this game. The fact it's in Washington, D.C., and having lived in that area for about 4 years, I mean, it is a major university in Virginia. Quite a few more students matriculate through Va Tech than they do Virginia. I mean, it is a big thing. So
it's more of an agricultural school, correct?
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's what they're, relatively known for, but it's now become such a large, general liberal arts type of, university, and there's almost 35,000 people, students in there now. So it's up there with George Mason in the 2 biggest universities in the state. So, for a state that has a ton of colleges, like tons. I mean, James Madison State too, so.
Christopher.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah, you're right.
Right, so. Yeah, I think, I'm definitely on the Va Tech side here. I guess I wish I'd gotten it as early as you did, with more points, but I guess we'll wait it out and see what happens. Maybe there'll be some Duke, betting before the game gets going. But, yeah, I'm on Va Tech, getting the points. An easy one to root for. I like Buzz Williams a lot, as you know, and I'm kind of an anti-Duke guy, so this is a pretty easy one. Also will help in regards to, I don't really have Duke going much past this game. I think I might have them winning this game in the contest. I'm not sure where everybody else is, but I know that they're losing. I have them losing the next game, I think, or maybe even if they're in the Final Four, it doesn't really matter. I know it's a relatively popular pick that people have. So, yeah, I mean, anytime the Duke is losing, you're probably going to gain something, in your bracket pools in general if you don't have to. So that's where I'm at. I have no idea what the total. That I have no clue about. But we'll be on plus the points here. I don't know about a money line, but we'll look at in-game, see what's going on. But it'll be a fun game to watch, no question about that.
Definitely be a good spot if Virginia Tech, especially if you've got the money line, 275, 280. Virginia Tech gets out to 11, 12-point lead. You might be able to even get some free money out of that.
Yeah.
So I'm already locked up with Virginia Tech money line, $50 to win. I don't remember what it was, but
140 or something.
No, it was more than that. It was maybe that's what it was. I forget.
It'd be roughly about 140 if you got it 280.
Yeah, that's probably right. Yep. Yeah.
I know I'm right.
Yep, you know you're right. Fuck. Listen to this fucking asshole.
How confident.
It might be early. I haven't had any coffee today, but I'm still good with math most of the time.
So, anyways, that's what I would really love to be looking for. I may have to fire another Virginia Tech bet before the game. That way I have my rollover, and then I also have my spot where Virginia Tech gets ahead by 13, 14 points, and I can get Duke at plus money or something.
Always be prepared.
Or I can catch Duke at like -1 or -1.5, and then just my favorite thing in the world to do is get middled. All right, we got a few minutes left in the podcast. You guys wanted to talk golf. That's usually what we talk about on Wednesdays.
But it's an interesting week.
But it's an interesting week. That golf has already started, actually. The match play is in progress.
Yep.
So that being said, it's very hard to bet because you're listening to this Wednesday night when the first rounds of the round robin are already over. But just a couple of things to go over kind of quickly in the match play, and then we'll talk about the Punta Cana tournament as well because, hey, if there's anywhere to find money, we're going to find it. Couple of guys token that you should be tailing in this match play championship going forward, obviously, Thursday, Friday.
I really like Horschel. I believe out of the gate he's been pretty firing. He's up 2 through 4 against Spieth right now. And that group is
we say this before all the Wednesday
open.
Rounds are over. So
yeah.
if they end up shitting the bed, don't blame us. They're okay right now.
I am the cooler, so.
Yeah. Should call you Yeti.
Yeah.
You're the biggest cooler I know.
Another name that I'm going to look for a tail spot would be Cantlay for sure. I think he's been pretty hot lately, as well as
Tony, do you have anybody? I know that the match play is not your favorite thing, but guys playing good golf right now, guys who generally excel in match play. Anything kind of strike your fancy in this spot? I know you said you won't be making an actual wager, but doesn't mean you don't like to look.
Oh, no, of course. And let me just preface by saying there's 2 reasons I don't bet on it. Number one, my track record is not great doing so. Not that matters that much. You can always get better. But the second thing is just the level of variance and predicting match play golf, having been not a super competitive golfer, but having played the game for a while. It's just very difficult because you can get behind in a match and then get sort of run over, and it's not really your fault. It's a tough thing, when you just play one person on one day, and it can have an altering effect. Having pool play now with these groups versus having them used to just have a 64-person bracket, this does make it a little bit easier. It lessens the variance a little bit. But the only thing I would recommend, and I'm not going to bet these matches. I might bet something on the weekend after single elimination, and we've seen maybe players play a bunch of rounds. We got kind of a little bit of an idea of how they're playing or where their misses are and things like that. I'm looking at groups. So of the 16 groups of 4, I'm looking at guys that have, I think, what would be in my opinion, the easiest road through are the guys that may not be playing all that well, but are in the field and are maybe not playing the best golf, and you can find one guy that is playing well or makes a lot of sense. So I found a couple. In Group 9, I like Xander Schauffele a lot, simply because I think that we have a few guys in that group. That group is Dale, Tyrrell Hatton, and Lee Westwood. And there's just a few guys in that group that are not playing all that well right now. Lee Westwood is clearly just barely in this thing, 62nd in the world, and is not playing all that well, around the world. He's not even a full PGA Tour member anymore. So I think he's kind of a little bit of a write-off in a sense like that. And Camilo Vale has been up and down. Certainly he's been more better than bad, in general this year, but it's still, I don't feel super confident there. And Tyrrell Hatton has been, while showing some flashes at times, he's not had a good start to the year here. He's dropped all the way from 16th in the world to 36th from roughly when the year started last fall. So that kind of gives you a little bit of an idea there. So I think Xander, in a sense, there where he should be able to attack this course on all levels. This is a bomber style course, Austin Country Club, where you can kind of hit it wherever you really need to, and it's very scoreable. So I think in that sense too, there's no other long hitters in that group as well. He's the only one that really gets out there. So I think that's a pretty decent spot. At least that was my own quick take. And there was another one here. I mean, there's some guys that really have some very difficult groups. But I think that one was the softest. And the last one, and it's already towards the bottom here. Let me keep going. There we go. Is Group 16, where I thought Sergio was in a pretty good spot here. He's in a group with Patrick Reed, Shane Lowry, and Andrew Putnam. Again, Putnam making his first appearance is a guy, we don't probably put a whole lot of stock into. And Shane Lowry is, again, he's got a rough patch here, last 6 or 7 months worldwide. He's splitting his time between 2 or 3 tours, actually. He's played a couple of times in Japan, too. And they're just not been playing very well. So the only one left there in that group would be Patrick Reed, who would, I think, give some pause for concern. And Reed has been above average and has been very strong since the year has started. But the last couple of events, he's not played well, including a really bad missed cut last week, where he finished like 140th or so, and couldn't even put a couple of good holes together, much less a good round. So, that's pretty much where I'm at. Sergio finally playing really well. We've talked about, since that debacle he had in Europe, how well he's played since, and he's had 3 straight top 20s in a row on the PGA Tour since then. So I think that's just a spot where getting a guy through that group and into the actual single elimination round, I think, could be your goal for like a future bet or something along those lines. So those are the 2 guys I plucked, and that was really where I was at in that regard.
Yeah, the last one on my list to advance to the weekend out of their group would be Paul Casey. I think with him playing pretty hot, even though Cam Smith's in this group, and not really confident in Charles Howell III or Abraham Answer, so I think he's got an easy group to come out of.
Yeah, Answer is playing Casey today, I believe. I know obviously people listening have already seen him, but I was intrigued by that one because Answer was like plus 160, 170? Something in that matchup?
Something around there, yeah.
Yeah, I thought that was kind of intriguing. I'm not really betting on these things, but I would have erred on the side of getting the 160, 170 for a player that's playing pretty well against a recent stroke play winner. I think that would be a little bit of a difficult transition. And if Casey's not a fine pick for this group, I just feel like that first match could be a little bit intriguing there. So, and I like where Answer's at right now in general as a player. So, yeah, that was just a line and intriguing.
All right, and let's move. We've got a couple minutes here. Let's move on to the tournament that starts on Thursday that you can actually still get matchups in and still make some good bets on, especially one that involves Tony Romo as well. The former Cowboys quarterback and current CBS analyst will be playing in this one, as Tony reminded me that he played in last year as well. Punta Cana, likes, dislikes, fades, follows. What are you guys feeling in this spot? Mr. Johnson, you may go first.
Yeah, so Romo will be playing in the Byron Nelson as well at Trinity Golf Club, which is his home club. That's in, I think, a month or so, or a little while. So this is kind of a bit of a preview to that. And the fact that he played here last year, I think, helps a lot. There's another thing that's interesting is that he played in the same group as Denny McCarthy last year, and he will be doing the same again this year. The third player is different, but McCarthy finished.
The actor Jenny McCarthy?
No, Denny McCarthy,
Denny,
the former Detroit Tigers pitcher, if you wanted to make a reference there. But Denny McCarthy finished fourth last year while playing with Romo in the first 2 rounds, and he was actually ninth last week on the PGA. And he's a good young player that's just a great ball striker. When it all comes together with him, it's his putting and short game that are the usual culprits if he's not playing well. But I think that's interesting. They're actually relatively decent friends. I think probably why the pairing is the way it is. In general, I think they met here at the course and they spent some time together. Denny's from the Dallas area as well. So I think that's the comfort level there. With that is nice, not only for Romo and whether he plays well or not, but I think for Denny McCarthy himself. So that's a guy I'm interested in this tournament. But other guys, and I'll run through it pretty quickly. I know we don't have a lot of time here, but I'm a fan of Thomas Detry, who is a Belgian player, plays in the European Tour, but is here playing this week, and he rents, or I don't know if he owns, but he has a long-term rental, maybe it's a timeshare, I don't know, here at the resort or in the area where they're playing here in Punta Cana, and he's been here for many years. There's a lot of Belgians actually that live part of the year in Punta, as weird as that sounds. It's kind of a spot for them. So he's very familiar with the course. He's played there hundreds of times, and he's been quite good on the European Tour this year as well. So there's a reason he's 35-1. I know it looks kind of low, just it's a name we don't recognize, but I like him a lot at 35-1 on William Hill. A player that's played well here and won in the past on the Web.com Tour is Dominic Pizzelli. 50-1. He actually leads the PGA Tour this year in putting, and overall putting, I believe, or maybe strokes gained, I'm not really sure. And so he's a guy that plays really well in the wind, too. He's been here now 3 times. He won 2 years ago on the Web.com. So a guy 50-1 who I think has some value there. And the other one I'm looking at is Rafael Campos, who we talked about in the court. Yeah, you're usually you're very good at predicting the guys that I like these things. That was Aaron, by the way. But
that's one I'm for sure on too. So.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about the Puerto Rican Open. Native Puerto Rican who's used to resort-style golf, courses like this, playing in wind. He's played well here before. It was also in the Web.com. In 2017, he finished 3rd. He did miss the cut last year when the PGA Tour took over the event, but again, a guy I like in a course like this, where it's this style of golf is very different than what a lot of the tour players are used to playing on a weekly basis. Obviously, being abroad is just different. It's a different just type of week, and I think that Campos is going to be comfortable in a spot like this. And I know he's very good to get his first PGA Tour win. It is something that I think he will, assuming he can keep his card, he will be in contention at least a couple of times throughout the year as the years progress. And a guy that if he needs some decent odds, especially in a weak field like this, 50-1 is pretty good. So, I mean that's where I'm at. I don't know where you are, Token, with any future.
I just bet one, and that was Campos. I really liked him at 60-1. What's your thoughts on Matt Every in this tournament?
Every is my last guy out, as they say in the bracket TV shows, whatever. He is my last man out. I had him written down at 50-1. I know he's played well this year. He's got a good record here as well of the few times he's played here. I was trying to figure out a way that 50-1 made enough sense, and I felt like, honestly, Campos was my thought of, if I think Campos has a much better chance to win than Every, just based on how everything is shaken out. And we get him at 60-1, Every at 50. Should I really be betting on Every at 50?
Yeah.
I just didn't feel like it was quite enough. But he was exactly the guy I had written down. Yep, just like you had, and close, very close. But I ended up not going with him for this.
Yeah, fair point in that one for sure. It should be an interesting tournament. Do you think Romo has a chance to even make the cut?
Probably not. I do have a middle for his first round, which is kind of funny in its own sense. So Westgate had a line at 77.5, 110, so I have the over there. And then offshore, I did find 79.5, minus 110, so
Under.
I do have the under offshore, yeah. So we have 78 and 79, which I feel are actually pretty good numbers for a middle like this. You know, it's interesting. Yeah, I mean, obviously he's unlikely to make the cut. The problem is, the course is not very difficult, and the fact that he's probably a pretty good wing player, especially based on watching him play a little bit in his swing. He's got that short, compact swing, having played in Texas, and he's kind of built for a course like this, and that makes sense. The problem is just to go so low. You know, the cut last year I think was like 5 under or something like that, like 4 or 5 under. I mean, you have to go so low to make the cut in this tournament that it seems unlikely because the course is so biddable. The wind will be down again this year, comparatively speaking, so just moderate winds at most. And I just can't see him making the cut because, you know, playing 2 or 3 under each day is extremely difficult to do. And while I guess he's theoretically capable of it, he may plus 2 or 3 index or whatever he is in real life, it's just not very likely. So I would put the line, if I had to make one, I'd put him at about minus 1,000 in this stuff. So that's probably right. Yeah.
Seems about fair, yeah. Yeah, I might even put it a little higher even.
Yeah, maybe it's even higher. You're probably right. It's probably even higher. I wish they offered it to see, but yeah, I only saw the first round score being offered and just found the middle spot. So hopefully it's 78, 79 just for my own sake. Yeah. If I had to take one side, I'd bet the under.
Right. Fair enough.
I'd bet the under. Yeah. So, yeah.
All right, that's going to wrap it up for us here on the Vegas Squares podcast for the Wednesday show. We appreciate you listening in. Thank the sponsors one more time: 12 Ounce Sports Radio, VGK or Vegas Puckline Apparel, Chai Poker, and Eric on the Web Productions. We'll have a good podcast this Sunday coming up with Spike. Obviously, you're aware the NFL made a new pass interference rule, and we've got a couple of more NFL players retiring, and I'm sure there's other stuff that's going to go on between now and Sunday, or I guess for our Monday show. So with that being said, I want to obviously thank Tony Johnson for taking time out of his vagabond schedule and giving us a little knowledge and insight. And obviously, Token Tony. And for Spike, who's not here, I am Aaron. We appreciate you listening, and we will catch you on the next one.